Dear students, welcome back to this e-Shikshana program. In today's video lecture, we will be discussing about your rule evaluation with respect to your classification. And so far in your classification process, we have covered decision trees as well as rule-based classifiers and how to evaluate those rules. Just like how we evaluated your association analysis rules by using various measures such as interestingness, correlation analysis, the lift factor, the support and confidence. Similarly, we will have to evaluate our classification rules. So that's why we are going for the topic rule evaluation. And in your rule evaluation, we'll be discussing about various measures available such as your accuracy, the R-square statistic, the M-estimate, the Laplace formula, and your false information gain. And we'll be discussing all these concepts with one single example. So what exactly is rule evaluation? It's nothing but an evaluation metric which is needed to determine which conjunct should be added or removed during rule growing process. So we have discussed accuracy and coverage, right? So by that, in case of your rule based ordering, we'll start ranking our rules based on the accuracy and coverage. So by that, what will happen? Which conjuncts, the conditions to be added or deleted. We saw in rule simplification, we saw that we removed one of the conjuncts. So that will help us with respect to rule evaluation, because accuracy is an obvious choice because it will explicitly measure the fraction of training examples classified correctly by the rule. We saw it, fine, both the antecedent and consequent as well as only the antecedent with respect to your coverage. So but the drawback of your rule accuracy is it will not take rules coverage into consideration. So that is the major drawback with respect to accuracy. It does not see how many conjuncts are being covered. That is why we go for rule evaluation. Here I have taken an example wherein with respect to training set, fine, please remember with respect to training set, I have 60 positive examples and 100 negative examples. That means the number of instances in my training set are 160, because positive are 60 classes, negative are 100 classes. Total classes will be 160 with respect to my training set. Now these examples are instances in my data set, and these examples have been covered by some rules. What are those rules? Rule R1 and rule R2. These are my two candidate rules, which exclusively with respect to rule R1 covers 50 positive examples and 5 negative examples. Similarly, R2 covers 2 positive examples and no negative examples. So please remember, we have discussed about rule coverage, fine. If a record is getting triggered, that means rule R1 is set to cover an instance X if it triggers that record. The same way, or your learn one rule function with respect to your sequential covering algorithm, we have said a rule if it covers more number of positive examples or 0 or few negative examples. The same thing, rule R1 is covering 50 positive, 5 negative. Total number of examples covered by rule R1 is 50 plus 5, 55. Similarly, rule R2 covers 2 positive examples, 0 negative examples. So the total number of examples covered by rule R2 is 2. So in the training set, 60 positive, 100 negative, total are 160. Rule R1 50 plus 5, 55. Rule R2 2 plus 0, 2 instances are getting covered. So please remember this. All the evaluation methods such as your accuracy, R-square statistic, foils, M-estimate, Laplace will solve for the same example, fine. So we have discussed about this rules and rule set, and we will try to calculate accuracy. What is accuracy? In case of your classification model, in the very beginning class from your confusion matrix, we have discussed total number of correct predictions divided by total number of predictions. So for rule 1, what will be the accuracy? Total number of correct predictions, correct in the sense positive examples, is 50. Total number of predictions, 50 plus 5, 55. So total number of correct predictions divided by total number of predictions. So 50 divided by 55, I'll get an accuracy of 90.9 for rule R1. For rule R2, 2 divided by 2, because negative examples are 0. Only positive examples I am supposed to consider. And even total number of examples are 2 because negative is 0. So 2 by 2 is 1. That means 100%. So the accuracy for rule R1 and R2 is 90.5 and 100 respectively. So I repeat how to calculate accuracy. Accuracy is defined as total number of correct predictions divided by total number of predictions. So with respect to rule R1, what are the total number of correct predictions? 50 divided by total number of predictions. 50 positive, 5 negative, 55. So 50 by 55 is 90.9. Similarly for R2, 2 divided by 2, 100% is what the. Now if you can recollect your model evaluation topic, I gave two examples, model A and model B. Model A had accuracy of 85%, model B had 75%, and similarly their accuracy rates was tested on 30 records for model A and 5000 records for model B. That is the first example. And with respect to your player selection, IPL player and international player, based on the number of matches, runs scored, and the wickets taken, we decided which model to select. The same way, which rule to select here? Obviously you will select rule 1 because, obviously you will select rule 2 because the accuracy of rule 2 is 100% when compared to 90.9% of rule 1. So you'll say R1 is better rule despite its lower accuracy. So please understand my sentences. Fine. Accuracy of R1 and R2 is 90.9 and 100%. When you start selecting a rule, you will say 100%. You will select rule R2 but not R1. Why? Accuracy is high. But just look at the number of examples that it is covering. R1 is covering 50 positive, 5 negative. Totally it is covering 55. But whereas your rule 2 is only covering 2 positive examples, no negative examples at all. That means number of instances covered by rule R1 is 55, 50 plus 5. By rule 2 it is only 2. So the coverage is very less. That's what I have written here. However, R1 is better rule despite its low accuracy. R1 is 90, R2 is 100. You will choose 100, but I will choose 90. Why? Because R1 is covering more examples when compared to R2. That's what. The high accuracy of R2 is potentially spurious because the coverage of the rule is very low. Only 2 examples, irrespective of positive or negative, only 2 are covered. But here 55 are covered. So even though the accuracy of rule R1 is less, I'll still choose it because of the coverage factor. So in such cases, how to overcome this drawback? We have 3 approaches. One is the statistical measure. The second one is an evaluation matrix that takes into account the rule coverage, and the third evaluation metric that considers the support count of the rule. Fine. So how to solve this? We'll see by the methods. The very first method with respect to your statistical test is the R square method. Fine. A statistical test represented by R square, which indicates the likelihood ratio statistic. It is represented by the notation R. So what is the statistical method? A statistical method can be used to prove rules that have poor coverage, just like this. Rule 2 has poor coverage. I can exclude these rules by using statistical test. And the formula is given as 2 times the summation of I starting from 1 to k. That means k indicates the number of classes. Number of classes in the sense positive, negative, yes or no, student has passed or failed. So number of classes or number of class labels in your target function is the value of k, multiplied by fi into log fi divided by ei, where fi is the observed frequency and ei is the expected frequency of a rule that makes random predictions. Fine. And if the value of r is large, then it suggests that the number of correct predictions made by the rule is significantly larger. So in a simple sense, larger the value of r, then the rule has a better coverage. We'll see a problem for this. Fine. With respect to the same previous example, initial training set consisting of 60 positive, 100 negative, total instances 160. Rule R1 has 50 positive, 5 negative, total instances are 55. Rule R2 has 2 positive instances and 0 negative instances. Total instances covered by R2 is 2. So for that, first thing I am supposed to do in order to find the R square statistic is I am supposed to find the expected frequency as well as we know the observed frequency. What is observed frequency? Total number of instances covered. Fine. So that will be the frequency. For example, with respect to rule R1, the observed frequency is 55 because 50 positive, 5 negative. For rule R2, 2 positive, 2 negative. 2 plus 0 is 2. So fi for rule R2 is 2. But what is expected frequency? we'll see that how to calculate. For example, so please remember this example. We will be solving all the methods with respect to rule evaluation for the same example. Fine. So what is the expected frequency for rule R1? Rule R1 covers 55 examples, 50 positive, 5 negative. So the expected frequency for positive class is E plus. I represented EI as, because there are two classes, positive instance, negative instances, two class. So expected frequency is, total number of instances covered is 55. And in your training set, how many positive examples are there? Because I am trying to find positive expected frequency, I am supposed to consider only positive instances from your training set. So expected frequency for rule R1 with respect to positive classes is, number of instances covered is 55, yes, 55 into number of positive instances in your training set is 60, divided by total number of instances in your training set is 160. 60 positive, 100 negative, 60 plus 100 is 160. I have taken the same count. So for any rule, how to find positive expected frequency with respect to positive instances? Total number of instances or examples covered is 55 into total number of positive instances in training set is 60, divided by total number of instances in training set 160. So I'll get the expected frequency for positive instance as 20.625. Similarly, I am supposed to calculate negative expected frequency. How? Again, for rule R1, total number of instances irrespective of positive or negative instances covered is 55, but I am multiplying by 100. Why? Because number of instances in your training set which are negative is 100, positive instances were 60, 100, divided by total number of instances in training set 160. I'll calculate the expected frequency as 34.375. I hope it is clear. Fine. Either positive frequency or negative frequency is calculated by number of instances in your rule. With respect to R1, it is 55 multiplied by number of positive instances in your training set 60, number of instances in your training set which are negative 100, total number of instances in training set either positive or negative 160, 160. I have calculated expected frequency. Now feed these values, expected frequency as well as observed frequency. Observed frequency for positive is 55, for negative with respect to your samples is 5, 50 and 5. So total number of examples are 55. Please recollect this. Total number of examples are 55. With respect to positive instance, observed frequency is 50 because it is covering 50 examples. Negative examples, it is covering 5 examples. So that is what the formula. Start feeding it. Twice R square statistic or the likelihood statistic is twice of the number of classes frequency with respect to observed as well as the difference between your observed frequency and target frequency or your expected frequency. Fine. So 2 into, what is the value of k? 2, because there are positive instances as well as negative instances. 2 into k value is 2. So I am considering positive as well as negative. Fi is observed frequency for positive instances 50 because rule R1 is covering 50 positive instances, 50 into log base 2 into Fi. What is Fi? 50 divided by expected frequency for positive instance 20.625. Feed that. Plus number of instances for your negative coverage is 5. Rule R1 is covering 5 negative instances. 5 into log base 2, 5 divided by expected frequency of negative instance 34.375. that is what I have calculated. Now the likelihood ratio statistic, the R square, I have determined it as 99.99. Similarly, repeat the same thing for rule R2. How to calculate expected frequency with respect to positive instances? Total number of positive instances in rule R2 is 2 into total number of positive instances in your training set 60 divided by total number of instances in your training set 160. So it is 0.75. For negative instances, total number of instances covered is 2. Total number of negative instances in training set 100 divided by total number of instances in training set 160. I find it as 1.25. Feed these values into the same equation. Again, total number of positive frequencies covered is, this 2 is from the equation. Total number of positive instances covered is 2 into log base 2 divided by expected frequency for positive instances by 0.27. I'm plus 0 multiplied by this value. Why 0? Because rule R2 is covering 0 negative instances, so I'm multiplying by 0. I calculate the R square value for rule 2 and I say the value is 5.66. When compared to rule R1 and rule R2, the ratio of likelihood statistic is greater for rule R1 than rule 2. 99.9 is obviously greater than 5.66. So this statistic, the ratio of likelihood suggests that rule R1 is better than R2. If you take accuracy, rule 2 had 100%, rule 1 had 90.9%. So it was not considering the coverage of positive as well as negative instances, but my statistic considers, the ratio of likelihood statistic considers both the rule accuracy as well as coverage. This is how the statistical test method works with respect to your ratio statistic, considering both positive as well as negative. See, rule R1 is having 90, R2 is having 100%, but it's the vice versa. With respect to your ratio of likelihood statistic, rule R1 is having 99.9, rule R2 is having 5.66. Why this spurious value of accuracy was coming in? Because rule R2 was covering very few examples, 2 positive, 0 negative. This is how the statistical method works. Next, we will see an evaluation metric that considers the rule coverage. One more example is your Laplace as well as M-estimate. In this video session, we will be solving problems on Laplace. M-estimate will be solving while we discuss about your Navy-based classifier for text documents as well as for continuous attributes. But still, your M-estimate is nothing but the extended version of Laplace. What is that? We'll see. Fine. Laplace equation is denoted by f plus 1 divided by n plus k. Always remember, f plus subscript denotes the support count. So where n is the number of examples covered by the rule. Just if you go back to your previous example that we discussed, the value of n for your training set will be 160, because 60 positive, 100 negative, 160. For rule R1 it will be 55, rule R2 it will be 2. So n is the number of examples covered by the rule, irrespective of whether it is a positive example or negative example. But what is f plus? F plus is the number of positive examples covered by the rule. So please remember this. N indicates the total number of examples covered. F plus indicates the number of examples covered if they are only positive. That is what. And k is the total number of classes. What is k? K is the total number of classes. Positive class, negative class. Fine. P plus is the prior probability of the positive class. So how to calculate these values? We'll see one by one. Fine. Note that M estimate is equivalent to the Laplace measure by choosing P plus is equal to 1 by k. So if I take the reciprocal of the number of classes, if number of classes are 2, fine, that will be the value of k in Laplace. For M estimate, the value of P plus will be equal to 1 by k. That means 1 by 2, 0.5 will be the prior probability. Depending on the rule coverage, these measures capture the trade-off. That means the value of P plus and k will depend on trade-off, whether I am trying to consider rule coverage or rule accuracy. So now we will try to solve the Laplace approach for finding the evaluation metric, which considers the rule coverage also, for the same example that we have discussed for your likelihood statistic. Fine. So I have noted the formula here, the Laplace formula, f plus 1 divided by n plus k. I repeat, n stands for total number of examples covered by the rule. F plus indicates total number of positive examples covered by the rule, where k is the number of classes. That is what has been written here. So with respect to your M estimate, the same description is given. So what is the rule R1? F plus 1 divided by n plus k. For rule 1, F plus indicates total number of positive instances. What are the total number of positive instances for rule R1? It is 50. So I have written 50 here. Plus 1 divided by n. What is n? Total number of instances, irrespective of positive or negative. For rule 1, 50 is positive, 5 is negative. Total number of instances are 55. I have written 55 here. Plus k. What is the value of k? K is total number of classes. What are the total number of classes? Positive class, negative class, 2. So 50 plus 1 divided by 55 plus 2. That is equal to 51 divided by 57. If you calculate, you will find the Laplace value for rule R1 to be 89.47. Similarly, repeat the same process for rule R2. F plus indicates the total number of positive instances covered by the rule. Rule R2 is covering 2 positive instances, 2 plus 1 by the formula plus 1 divided by n, total number of instances covered by rule R2. 2 positive, 0 negative, 2 plus 0 is 2, so I have written 2. Number of classes again here is positive and negative, so 2 by 2, 3 by 4. The value is equal to 75%. So rule R1 Laplace value is 89.47%. Rule R2 it is 75%. So by this, what the Laplace value indicates, that the value with respect to accuracy is 75 is very less when compared to rule R1. So rule R1 is better than rule R2 because it is not only considering the number of positive instances, but it is covering the total number of instances irrespective of positive or negative. Hence, even your Laplace method of finding the rule evaluation is suitable one when compared to only accuracy, because it considers accuracy as well as coverage. This is how the Laplace formula works. And for the same formula with respect to your M estimate, you know f plus value, you know the value of k, it is 2, p plus is 1 by k. So k is 2 into 1 by 2, you will get a value of 1. So substitute again, you can find that M estimate, even rule R1 will be better than rule R2. Detailed description of M estimate we will discuss while we solve Naive Bayes classifier. Fine. So next we will go to one more approach which will take support count of a rule into consideration for finding the rule which is better in the available data set. Fine. In this case we considered the rule coverage. Here we will take into support count, and one of the approach available to consider support count is your Foyle's information gain. In a short form it is represented as FIL, Foyle's information gain. So the support count of a rule corresponds to the number of positive examples covered by the rule. So please remember, majority of the emphasis is on positive coverage, because your learn one rule also says the same thing, cover more number of positive instances and 0 or few negative instances. So suppose I have a classification rule, or the attribute conjunction is A implies positive, covers P naught positive examples and N naught negative examples. So the same example that we discussed with respect to your ratio of likely statistic as well as your Laplace as well as M estimate, we'll take the same example where initial training set has 60 positive instances, 100 negative instances. For that I'll represent P naught as 60, N naught as 100. Same example. After adding a new conjunction B, what is that conjunction B? Second rule I will add, and the first rule that I will add. Fine. The extended rule R dash, wherein I have two conjuncts covers P1 positive examples and N1 negative examples. For example, I will add rule R1 with P1 as 50 and N1 as 5. Again I will add rule R2, P2 as 2, N2 as 0. Then the Foyle's information is given as between two rules, R0 R1 or R1 and R2 is given as P1 into log 2 to P1 divided by P1 plus N1 minus log base 2 to P0 divided by P0 plus N0. P0 is number of positive instances in your training data set. N0 is number of negative instances in your training data set. P1 is number of positive instances in your given rule. N1 is number of negative instances in your given rule. The same description is given below. Now we will try to apply Foyle's information gain for the same example that we have considered. So reconsidering the formula, I will substitute. What is P1? Number of positive instances covered in rule R1. So it is 50 into log base 2. P1 value obviously I know, 50 divided by 50 plus what is N1? Number of negative instances in rule R1. So rule R1 is 5 negative instances minus log 2. What is P0? Number of positive instances in your training data set, 60 divided by I know P0, 60 plus what is N0? Number of negative instances in your training data set, 100. And I find rule R1, your Foyle's information gain is 43.12. Similarly for rule R2, P1 value is 2 positive instances, right? 2 divided by negative instances is 0. And this remains same because total number of P0 and N0 values from your training data set remains same. P0 is 60 positive instance, N0 negative instance in your training data set 100. So if I apply and solve, I'll get 2. So R1 is having false information gain of 43.12, R2 is having 2. So which is better? Obviously rule R1 having 43.12. Therefore I can conclude rule R1 is better than rule R2. So please remember, first we discussed how to calculate accuracy and coverage of a given association rule, given classification rule involving your antecedent and consequent. Then we saw how to find rule accuracy for given training instance and rules, and we found that even though rule R2 was covering less number of instances, only 2 instances, its accuracy was 100. Rule R1 was covering 55 instances, but still its accuracy was 90.9%. So we could have normally said R2 is better than R1 because it is not considering the rule coverage. That is why we went for other alternative forms such as your likelihood ratio statistic R square. Then we saw false information gain. Then we saw Laplace, the M estimate, and found that R1 is the best rule when compared to R2 for all these approaches, because it is not only considering the rule accuracy, it is also considering the coverage, whether it is covering positive examples or negative examples. Hence rule R1 is better than R2 in all these instances. Next we'll look at the direct method called as Ripper method, which is involved in extracting rules from your data set. If you can recollect, I said there are 2 methods of extracting rules from your classification models. The first thing is the direct method, the second one was indirect method. In direct method there are 2 algorithms according to your syllabus. One is your sequential covering algorithm, the next one is Ripper algorithm. In your previous session we have covered your sequential covering algorithm, which uses learn one rule function, which covers more positive instances and 0 or few negative instances. Fine, that was your direct method approach. In the second algorithm of direct method we have the Ripper algorithm based on the name of the scientist, and then we will discuss the indirect method and then conclude your second major category of classification model, that is your rule based classifier. Fine, so we'll discuss the direct method, the Ripper method. For a 2 class problem, what is 2 class problem? A data set having target function which is taking 2 values. That means there are 2 class labels such as pass and fail, positive, negative, 1 and 0. They are all examples for 2 class problem. So for 2 class problem, choose one of the classes as positive class and the other as negative class. Learn rules for positive classes, negative class will be default class. Learn rules for positive class. How? Again make use of learn one rule function if possible. Fine. If it is a multi-class problem, what is multi-class problem? 2 classes, pass or fail, negative or positive, 1 or 0. What is multi-class problem? For the same student result. Fine, pass or fail is 2 class problem. What is multi-class problem? Pass, fail, malpractice, result withheld, student is absent. They are all examples for multi-class problem. Order the classes according to increasing prevalence. That means fraction of instances that belong to a particular class. A simple indication, majority of the classes having more class values will be the class label. Learn the rule set for small class first, treat rest as negative classes. Repeat the next small class as positive class. So what is this indicating? First, now say for example when there are n number of classes, right? You take a class which has small values, that means S is repeated only twice. Take such class as positive instance, remaining will be negative instances classes. So then remaining will be negative. Fine. Next, say for example no class. Fine, the class label no is having 3 values, then select the next one. Now say for example there is one more class having xyz value with 5 number of appearances, then take 5, then 10. So that is why you are supposed to increase. Repeat the next small class as positive class, remaining will be negative. That is your Ripper method of extracting data. Now how is the process of Ripper method working? We'll see. The first one is growing a rule. Fine, there are 3 categories or 3 steps in case of your Ripper method. The first one is growing a rule, second one is building a rule set, the third one is optimizing the rule set. Now we'll see one by one. Fine, what is the first principle or the first stage? Growing a rule. You will start with an empty rule, just like your sequential covering algorithm. You will start with empty rule. Add conjuncts as long as they improve false information gain. How to calculate false information gain? We have just seen. After calculating the false information gain, add conjuncts. Where will you add conjuncts? Conjuncts are nothing but conditions. You are supposed to add that in your antecedent. Add in such a way that you will improve the false information gain. Then stop when rule no longer covers negative examples. If it is not covering negative examples, you can stop. After stopping, you are supposed to prune the rules immediately. How to measure pruning? The formula is given. Pruning is indicated as p minus n divided by p plus n. Again, where n is number of positive examples covered by the rule in validation set. What is validation? We have discussed. Training, validation as well as testing. Where n is the number of negative examples covered by the rule in validation set. Pruning method. The name itself indicates pruning, delete, remove, move it to trash. Delete any final sequence of condition that maximizes v. If the value of v is increasing, such type of antecedents should be removed. That is what is called as growing a rule. This is similar to your sequential covering algorithm, wherein you start with empty rule, then add the rules according to their ranking, you start listing them. The same process. Add conjuncts as long as they improve false algorithm, and you are supposed to prune using this formula. When to stop? As long as it maximizes the value of v, you keep on proving. Now the second step is building the rule set. How to build rule set? We talked about here, right? Keep on adding the conjuncts. How will I add? Use sequential covering algorithm. What is sequential covering algorithm? We have seen the algorithm. We have discussed the example which uses your learn one rule function. The same thing is employed here. Find the best rule that covers the current set of positive examples. What is your rule one function? The same thing. Cover more positive, fewer zero negative instance. Eliminate both positive and negative examples covered by the rule. Once the instances are covered, you are supposed to eliminate the rule. That's what I have done here. Each time a rule is added to the rule set, compute the new description length. So what are you doing here? You are adding the conjuncts. How many conjuncts you are adding? You are supposed to compute it. That is what is called as the description length. Description length is nothing but how many conjuncts are there in your antecedent. That is the description length. Stop adding new rules when the new description length is d bits longer than the smallest description length obtained so far. So initially you would have started with a length of 2, then you might have found 4, 5. When compared to the smallest description, it is very large. Then you can stop building the rule set. The last one, optimize the rule set. In general, what do you mean by optimization? Within the limited resources, yield maximum production. Similarly, with respect to my optimization of rule set, it indicates that with minimum number of rules, trigger maximum number of records. We have seen how a rule triggers a record. The same thing, optimization is with minimum number of rules, I must trigger maximum number of records. So for each rule R in the rule set R. Fine. Consider two alternatives. What are those? One is the replacement rule. The second one is revised rule, represented as R asterisk mark as well as R hyphen. Fine. Grow new rule from scratch. That means from the beginning start generating the rules. Or the revised rule, add conjuncts to extend the rule. Conjunct 1 and conjunct 2 and conjunct 3, or condition 1 and condition 2 and condition 3. Go on adding. Or start from the beginning to the existing one, add it, that I call it as revised. Or from the beginning, from the scratch you start designing the rules, that is called as replacement. Compare the rule set for R against the rule set for R dash and R. So you have the initial rule set R, then you have replacement rule as well as revised rule. Select from them by comparing. How? Choose rule set that minimizes MDL principle. What is MDL principle? The description length principle. MDL stands for maximum description length principle. Any rule covering more number of records with few conjuncts, such type of rule set will be selected among R, R star and R hyphen, or I have used a single apostrophe mark here. Fine. So any rule set having less number of conjuncts covering more number of records will be chosen among these three categories. Which are those? R is your initial rule set, R star is your replacement rule set, R dash is your revised rule set. Repeat rule generation and rule optimization for the remaining positive examples. As long as they are positive examples, keep on repeating, and then if there are no more positive examples, you can stop executing your repair method. So these are the three stages of your repair method for two class problem as well as multi-class problem, wherein you start growing a rule, then you build the rule set using sequential covering algorithm, then find the description length, number of conjuncts in the antecedent, then which rule to select from the three available sets, replacement rule, revised rule and the initial rule set. You select the maximal description length principle, which minimizes the number of conjuncts and covers more number of records. We'll repeat this process of rule generation and rule optimization as long as there are positive examples. If there are no positive examples, you can stop this. So we have covered sequential covering algorithm as well as your repair method, which are direct methods of extracting rules from the data set. Please remember, rules can be extracted in two ways. One is from the data set. If I extract rules directly from the data set, it is called as direct method. And under direct methods, we have seen sequential covering algorithm as well as the second approach, the repair method. The second category of extracting rules is indirect method, wherein from the classification model I extract rules. And how is this classification model built? From the training data set. So from the existing training data set, if I extract rules directly, it is direct method, your sequential as well as repair method. From this training data set, I prepare a classification model, and from the classification model, if I extract rules, it is called as indirect method. And now we'll see the indirect method approach, wherein I have a decision tree. So we'll see your indirect method. Indirect method involves extracting rules from a classification model, and this classification model is nothing but your decision tree. We have already discussed your Hunt's algorithm as well as the decision tree induction algorithm, the skeleton of it, how to construct a decision tree. A decision tree is constructed, and now I am supposed to extract rules. And I think we have discussed this also, how to extract rules from a decision tree. A rule can be extracted if I traverse from my root node to leaf node. From root node to leaf node, this is my root node, this is my leaf node. What are the definitions for root node? In degree is 0, out degree is 2 or more. What is a leaf node? In degree is 1, out degree is 0. QR and QR intermediate nodes or test attribute conditions or non-terminal nodes. Why? Because their in degree is 1, out degree is 2. Such type of nodes are called as non-terminal nodes. So how to extract rules? I traverse from my root node to leaf node. Every path will be a rule. Now, what is the first rule? First of all, how many paths are there? There are 5 paths. I'll just move my mouse pointer so that you can determine the number of paths. The first path, this is the first path, from P to Q, Q to positive instance. Second path, again from P to R, P to positive. The third path, P to R, R to Q, Q to positive. The fourth path, P to R, R to Q, R to negative. This is my fifth path. I'll generate the rules. P is equal to no is the first conjunct, and Q is equal to no. The instance will be negative. That's what I've written. P is equal to no and Q is equal to no. Leaf label or the consequent or your class label is negative. P is equal to no and Q is equal to yes. It will be classified as positive. Yes. I have written R2 as P is equal to no, Q is equal to yes. It will imply positive. Similarly, repeat the same process for the other 3 paths. P is equal to yes, R is equal to no, it is positive. P is equal to yes, R is equal to no, it is positive. P is yes, R is yes, Q is no, it is negative. That's what. P is yes, R is yes, Q is positive, class label is positive. I have written the same thing. Fine. So this is the process of extracting rules from the classification model. If you extract rules from classification model, it is called as indirect method. Once I have extracted my rules, I can simplify the rules also. Say for example, so how can I simplify my rules? I've just taken random samples R2, R3 and R5. Now, but if you observe your rule R2 and R5, fine. See, R2 is saying P is no, Q is yes. R5 is saying P is yes, Q is yes, fine. See the similarity between R2 and R5. Whenever Q is yes, it is getting classified as positive. Look at all your instances. Q is yes, it is positive. Q is no, here I am not considering this. Q is yes, yes, it is positive. So I can redirect my equation and write it as Q is yes. Fine. I have written R2 as P is equal to no and Q is yes as positive. I can minimize this. There are two conjuncts, P is equal to no and Q is equal to yes, then the class label will be positive. But P is equal to no has no impact. Whenever Q is yes, my class label is positive. So R2 dash can be written as Q is equal to yes. I will have single conjunct in R2 dash rather than two conjuncts in R2. This is how I can simplify the rules in my indirect methods. So please remember, this instance with respect to attribute condition Q is equal to yes, Q is equal to yes will always lead positive class label. So I can minimize the rule antecedent. How? I can write R2 dash as Q is equal to yes directly. Why? Because P is equal to no has no impact on the class label. Fine. P is equal to no also it will be positive, P is equal to yes also it will be positive. It will only depend on Q. Whenever Q is yes, it becomes positive. If Q is no, it is becoming negative. So it depends on Q is equal to yes. So I rewrite my R2 dash as Q is equal to yes. So R2 dash has only one conjunct, R2 has two conjuncts. So if the number of conjuncts are minimized, my minimum description length principle will be less and the efficiency will be high. This is how indirect methods, that means extracting rules from classification model, works. So now we'll see the advantages of your rule based classifier. It is highly expressive as your decision trees, because in your decision tree you use the graphical representation. From the decision tree you extract rules, so both are equivalent, they are highly expressive. Obviously rules are easy to understand because you traverse from root node to leaf node, yes, and easy to generate also. Obviously can classify new instances rapidly. This is what we have done, we have classified new instances rapidly. Performance is comparable to decision tree. We have seen the examples, we have calculated accuracy as well as coverage values for rule R1 R2. We find that rule based classifiers are better in comparison to your decision trees. So in the next video lecture we will be discussing about your instance based classifiers and why instance based classifiers are required, because your rule based classifiers are having some disadvantages also. Intentionally I am not discussing your disadvantages of rule based classifiers. You go through the contents whatever I have shared in this video as well as your previous video with respect to rule based classifier. You will know what exactly is rule based classifier. I have listed the advantages. Then in the next class we will discuss the disadvantages of your rule based classifier and go for instance based classifiers. So as I've initially said, there are three components of your model for this classification. The first one was your decision trees, the second one was rule based classifiers, the third one is instant based classifiers. So I've already covered the first two parts. Now the last part is instant based classifiers that we will discuss in your next video session. Thank you.